Hi, friends. Welcome to this segment. So, we still continue with controlling performance. Okay, so we're looking at chapter 6 of our core text. Okay, in the previous chapter, chapter 5, we were still looking at controlling performance, but what we typically limited ourselves to was considering the legal regimes. Okay, we were looking at typically the HR perspective from what the HRs could do to control performance in the workplace and how workers could also leverage on the laws, the regulations, the acts of parliament, the legislative instrument or constitutional instrument that support and safeguard the interest of the worker at the workplace. So it was typically a legal requirement that we studied in the previous section. But at this point, we'll be looking at ways that we can control the behavior in the workplace. So in this case, laws do not normally come in, but we're talking of internal processes, internal activities that are being undertaken. You know some of them. Some are quite easy. We've always gone through some of them, like workplace annual reviews or performance appraisals that are undertaken, mentorship, coaching. You know some of these. Okay, those are normally not really controlled by legal instruments, but it is normally the strategy of the organization that is put in place to ensure that they can control behavior. Okay, so we're gonna take that one in two parts. We'll take it in two parts, after which we'll call it off. Okay. So once again, let's take one step back and look at where we are so far in terms of our studies. Okay, so you can see that we're progressing gradually. We'll finish. Okay, so we are now on chapter 6, controlling performance. So after that, we have one, two, three, four to finish up. Okay, that's lovely. We'll get there soon. Okay. So we're talking of behavioral control. So typically, when we talk of behavioral control, we want to see how the company can influence the attitude, the behaviors of the individuals, to the extent that it will not just only benefit the company, but it will also benefit the individual who is being influenced, who is being controlled. Let me put it that way. I don't want to use the word manipulated. It doesn't sound a positive word, but we use the word control. Okay, so here it deals with a number of elements we can talk of. Encouraging best practices in the workplace. Sometimes we are motivated to conform to the best practice, best operating standards. Okay, in practice, at the workplace, anywhere. Okay, it also includes motivating the employees to improve productivity, increase outputs, quality outputs, of course, and also deals with motivating them to look at quality, like I said, improve quality at the workplace. Now, one other aspect could also be preventing employees from making mistakes. And even when they make mistakes, how quickly do they detect it? And how can they correct it? Okay. And also, we're looking at the fact that we can limit the likelihood and impact of fraud at the workplace. I've always said that wherever human beings work, wherever human beings operate, fraud is likely to be perpetrated in that area. So we could look at influencing their behavior so that they can reduce the impact, the likelihood of its occurrence, and then in fact the impact of its occurrence. Okay, and also encourage ethical activities, ethical conduct within to amongst the employees. Let them act ethically, think right, do what is right. Okay, and again, it could also deal with motivating managers, supervisors, directors to take decisions that are in the best interest of the company. Don't do things that will only satisfy your parochial interest. Okay, some work organizations, you see managers only undertaking activities to suit their whimsies and caprices. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking of taking decisions that will satisfy the entire organization. Okay, at the end of the day, the organization first. Okay, so a number of control mechanisms are put in place, a number of them within an organization. We could talk of the organizational structure. In that case, we break down the organizations into smaller units or departments so that you are clearly given your mandate, you know your defined roles and responsibilities, your authority. You don't have to exceed, okay? You don't usurp your authority. You live within your mandate and discharge your activities as required. Again, we could also use another mechanism where we set targets, budgets, okay? In that case, you know what you are working towards. And so you work directly to meet the expectations that has been set for you. And then we could also talk of the culture. of the organization. Culture, the way we all behave, the way we all do things together. So you are then working in tune with the defined norms, okay, the values of the organization. We all identify with the same thing that we are doing, in which case we will not tolerate any deviations from what is best for all of us in terms of the cultural practices that are being undertaken in the organization. Again, we could institute direct supervision by management, in which case we assume the management or the directors, the supervisors know better. So they will direct you when you are going off track. They will motivate you, they will reward you, they will approve you whenever necessary. And also self-control. Allow the person to act in his own interest. Give him some guidance. Don't micromanage him. Don't decide for him. Allow him to do his own thing, okay? But at the end of the day, he should be able to take responsibility for the work that he's done. Self-control, very important. In every workplace, I think every organization should allow staff to behave as free living organisms. They have a free will. They should discharge it under temperance. Okay, some books will say temperance, self-control. Okay, and take responsibility for what you've done. Again, we could also institute control processes where we tend to measure the expectations against the actual. So it also could link up to the situation of setting targets or budgets. So at the end of the day, we put in a control mechanism and we check whether we've really met our targets. If there are any deviations, what caused it? Investigate, okay, and put in place some corrective measures. If it's a positive, a tap on your shoulder and you sustain it. If it's a negative, find ways and means to resolve it. Then we could also institute specific control processes like the creditor ledger, in which case you tend to undertake a payables control account reconciliation, so that you'll be sure that the kind of payments you've made to your supplier jives with what has been posted in the ledger account. It could also be debtors control account, okay, where you want to be sure that the amount you've received jives with what the supplier has given to you, okay. And again, most important, every organization has this. We have policies, guidelines, okay, ethical code of conduct. Almost every organization has an ethical code of conduct, in which case it helps us to ensure that we work within our our defined rules and regulations, our defined responsibilities or parts which have been charted for us, and then ensure that there are no ethical conflicts within the workplace. Okay. Now, control mechanisms normally could be influenced by the size of the organization. So if it's a small and medium size, their mechanisms could differ from a large or international organization, multinationals. So there are four defined types of organizational control, and we look at that and then wrap up on that note. Okay. So one, we have the personal centralized control, and they normally happen in situations where the organization is small, small or medium, in which case all decisions are centralized within one person, the owner, the founder, the proprietor. Okay. So he does everything. He owns the risks, the rewards, in which case control is carried out by him only, and he will do the personal supervision and direction and ensure that you fall in place. Okay. Okay. Day-to-day tasks, everything. Almost he does everything. Okay. Then we have the bureaucratic control. Normally we find this in bigger organizations, standardized. You go to Europe, you find them doing the same thing. You go to Africa, you find them doing the same thing. So more bureaucratic control deals with formalized rules, regulations, procedures, hierarchy systems are in place to ensure that there are formal job descriptions. I don't do what I'm not supposed to do. I do what I am required to do per my detailed JDs. Okay. Now, people are normally rewarded based on their achievements or that achievements of their job descriptions. Okay. They could also be punished by reference to these rules and regulations, procedures, systems which have been put in place. So normally we always have these kind of systems, in which case your reward, your punishment will be dependent on the kind of bureaucratic systems or procedures which have been put in place. Okay. So that is the second aspect. Okay. Then we have the control, the output control. So output deals with productivity. How much did I produce based on the assignment which has been given to me? So we're talking of results, productivity, output, and of course should be quality. Quality determines the overall outcome. Okay. So we're talking of output, individual output, collective outcomes, or the combination of the outputs into an outcomes, okay? And this will normally help to enforce the kind of controls the organization puts in place. Now, the approach in this scenario will normally help to, it deals with delegation of authority and of responsibility without looking at bureaucratic controls, okay? So, of course, if I can deliver based on my own intuition, or of course I work within guidelines, I should be allowed to do so. At the end of the day, my quality output will determine whether I deviated from expectations or I did what is required by the organization. Okay. Then we have the clan and cultural control. Again, culture comes into place where we are all identifying with the same goal, with the same mission. Okay. So at the end of the day, no deviations, no mistakes, because we are all dealing with the same defined rules, defined objective, defined strategy. So it deals with a situation where each individual in the organization must identify with the cultural situation of the organization. Okay, professional identification, acceptance of values. You normally find this in the professional organizations practice, the audit firms. They will normally have this clan or cultural control. So you see KPMG guys, they will act in a way that clearly shows that they are all in tune with one defined value. Okay. And it depends on the common agreement of the objectives and the shared cultural values that the organization has. Okay. You normally find this in the multinationals. They normally will have some form of cultural control or clan control in the workplace. All right. Now, as we bring this to an end, I want to push one or two items there, after which we can bring it to a close. So, traditional classical theories of management, we've studied that in the previous sections. Okay, tells us that trust is very important. Okay, now at the workplace, as an employee, I'm a lecturer. My supervisors trust me. They think I can come to the class and deliver. I'll not take any undue advantage of the situation and do my own thing. So trust is very important. Okay, trust is very important at the workplace. It means your employers, your big men at the top are telling you that you are reliable, you are honest, you are competent, you can do this work. So they leave you to do your work. Of course, there are some controls here and there to ensure that you don't deviate from the norms of the company. But trust, they give you that particular honor. Okay. The important thing is here, once there's trust, you end up getting self-motivated to do your work clearly, easily. Okay. One more thing we should know is that there could be a high degree of specialization. Yes. There could be some hierarchical structure of authority, and each employee will be tasked with a specific role. Go teach at these times, because you get a tone from the top directing you to do that, because you are being seen to be someone having that level of skill and competence to deliver. You are given. But at back of their minds, they trust you. So you go out there with some kind of motivation, knowing that I'm going to do what is expected of me. You also have to, if I'm a lecturer, I need to study. I need to get myself approved, so that when I stand in front of the class, I can confirm to them that the top hierarchy has invested in me that kind of trust. Okay. But the problem with this type is that it fails to take into account the human elements. Okay. And it can lead to motivational problems as well, quality problems. You think everybody can teach well? Some people come to class and confuse the students. Some people are very good in terms of interview skills. So you interview them, they can pass the interview clearly, but when they give them the technical work to do, they can't do it. You trust them that they can do it. You leave them on their own, and there could be quality problems. Students complaining here and there. Okay. And of course, there could be little understanding of people. We trust from afar. We don't see what they are doing. We don't know what they do in their private lives. We give them all that trust, that honor. But there could be some challenges that could rise. Okay. So these are some of the things we should just look out for. Of course, we will always say that whenever there is a high level of trust, management may reduce the level of formal control because they tend to have confidence that the employees will always take the correct decisions. So they offer you so much control, so much trust. They imbue that trust in you and they step back because they have confidence in you that you do it. But if you don't take care and you don't control this with the right balance to ensure that you are guiding them in the right direction, you are leading them in the right direction, you could wreak havoc. Okay, you could wreak havoc. Okay, so let's take this example, this question STU. So if you take your text, you'll find it on page 221, okay, of the current edition, where it talks about STU develops accountancy software for small to medium sized businesses like Zero, like Sage, name them. Okay, Caseware. Now, STU was established 15 years ago by a graduate in accounting. Regardless of an increasingly competitive environment, it has grown and diversified to become a global provider of specialized accountancy software. In order to cope with the increasing size and diversity of the business, additional levels of management and control systems have been introduced, including additional policies, additional rules and regulations and procedures. Unfortunately, the increase in bureaucracy is affecting is having the effect of slowing down the decision-making processes and limiting ideas for the new software development. The CEO is aware of the conflict between structural changes and the need for a continuous creativity and innovation that are critical to the new software development and the future success of the business. But it's unsure. It is not sure. This CEO is not sure how to overcome the problem. The question is, can you write an email, just some 20 minutes? Okay, can you write an email to the CEO explaining why formal control systems are increasingly necessary as an organization grows and diversifies, and why the use of bureaucratic forms of control in the company might limit creativity and innovation. Okay, we end here for the first segment. Okay, we end here for the first segment. We'll come back to the second segment where we'll look at typically employee appraisal systems. We've done it before. We've done it in our real lives, in our workplaces. Even as a student, sometimes you should know your assessment, your exams is a form of appraisal. We are just assessing your understanding and your achievements up to date. Okay, we end here, friends, and I'll see you in the next bit. Take care. Bye for now.